So you should be measuring all 8 of the angles. Putting the angle measure right in the corner. Figure out how many degrees they are. We're noticing a pattern at all as you're measuring? Hopefully you're seeing that pattern.
I only measured one.
How big is this angle up here? Anyone get something else? 135? Something close to that? 130? Okay, something in that range. How big was the angle next to it? Something close to 45? If you had different numbers, you can keep your numbers there. You don't have to change them. But what pattern should you see? What would be here? What should be here? What would be here? What would be here? Anyone gotten this far? What would be in this angle?
136.
According to my picture, it should be this. What should be here then?
45.
There should only be 2 angle measures that you're seeing every time you measure the angles. Okay, now when would this pattern happen? What's special about this picture and the lines? They are parallel to each other. So this is only going to happen if you have 2 lines that are parallel. If your lines aren't parallel, you're not going to have equal angles on the top and the bottom. All right, so let's talk about what property ends up happening with all of our angles we talked about in the last section. The corresponding angles, let's remind ourselves what those are. Those are the ones in the same corner. So if I was looking here, the corresponding angle to it would be the other 135 down below. They're in the same corner, the upper left corner. Are they equal? Okay, so if you have parallel lines, the corresponding angles end up being congruent to each other. What about the alternate interior angles? Which ones are those? Which one is the alternate interior angle to this one? Yep. Uh-huh. So these are the alternate interior angles. A pair of them. Are they equal? So these are also congruent. Okay, what about consecutive interior angles? If I was going to pick this 45 right there, which one is the consecutive interior angle to that one? Which 135? This? Okay, so those are consecutive interior angles. Are they equal? What's special about them? What's the word for that? They add up to 180, so these ones are always going to be supplementary if you have parallel lines. Okay, and lastly, alternate exterior. If I was talking about this exterior angle, which one is the alternate exterior to that one? The what? Alternate exterior. that one. Are they equal? Okay, so these will also be equal if you have parallel lines. So these only work when the lines are parallel to each other. Okay, which is why if you look in your notes right below this, you're going to see a bunch of if-then sentences. Let's back up though. We're going to have abbreviations for all of these. You can see them on those if-then sentences. From now on, I'm only going to write a C for corresponding, AI for alternate interior, CI for consecutive interior, and AE for the alternate exterior. I'm no longer going to be writing out the full words. Okay? Shortens up these sentences because they can get kind of long. So all of them start out with if parallel lines because this only works if the lines are parallel to each other. Otherwise, these properties don't work at all. So in the book, they're going to ask you for a reason why you know something. You have to pick one of these 4 sentences. Okay, the only other option for a reason, which is something we've talked about already, is that vertical angles are congruent. So that one may show up. So add that to your list over there. Okay, if you want to shorten these sentences up even more, you can write the angle symbol instead of writing the word angles. Okay, we're not going to talk about proofs a whole lot in this chapter, but we will next chapter, and just know that these if-then sentences are options for reasons in a proof. But we'll get to that when we get to the proof chapter. So we're going to be using these properties up above to figure out what x is down here. So let's look at this picture. We have L and M are parallel to each other. So let's put the symbols on there to show that they are. So knowing that, we're focusing on the parallel lines. The line in the middle is actually extra information that we can ignore, that perpendicular line. But this 105 can be written in other places. Where could we write it? Where else is it 105 degrees because of those parallel lines? There's 3 more places where we can write 105. Yep. Right here? Right here? Not right here. Good guess, though. Yep.
Right next to that.
Here? Okay, we can write it right there. How do you know that these are both 105 using one of the reasons up above? First, second, third, or fourth sentence. The question is, what kind of angles are they? The first one, they're corresponding angles. They're in the same corner. This is the upper left, and this is the upper left. Okay, so your reason, if parallel lines, corresponding angles congruent. Okay, that's how we know that. Well, this helps us because now we have these 2 angles next to each other, 105 and this 3x minus 18. What do we know about these 2 angles? How do you know that? How do you know they're supplementary? Because they're on a straight line together. Good. Okay, so we know they add to 180, so we can set that up so that we can solve for x. Okay, so we combine like terms. We get 3x plus 87. I heard someone whisper it. Okay, now what? What's that? So your answer questions on that. We're going to try a few more examples. Okay, so on these, there's multiple variables that we're solving for on each of these problems. So we're going to separate them so that we can focus on what we need to focus on. What I'm going to have you do in the homework, because these are similar to the homework problems, is to redraw them with only the information you need for each variable. So we're always going to redraw the parallel lines. So on these, the parallel lines are horizontal, so we're going to redraw the horizontal lines. And then we'll draw just one of the transversals, so one of the other lines. So I'm going to start with the one on the left and draw it kind of at a similar angle to the way it's drawn. And then we're going to fill in this picture with what we see there. So what two angles would I be filling in? What would I write on them? Am I talking about 2Z? Am I talking about 134? Which angles would I draw in this picture? I drew this top line, the bottom line, and this line on the left. 2Z and 3Z right here. Okay, so essentially I'm just ignoring the stuff on the right-hand side because we're just focusing on Z right now. Okay, what kind of angles are these as far as the four angles we've been talking about in this chapter? Corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior, consecutive interior. They are consecutive interior. So are they equal or supplementary? These are the ones that are supplementary. So we've got 2Z plus 3Z equals 180. We divide. We get 36. Okay, now let's focus on the other two angles. So again, we're always going to draw the parallel lines, but now I'm going to draw this transversal, and then we'll fill in the angles where they should go. We've got the 134 and the 2x. What kind of angles are they? They're also consecutive interior. Okay, so these are also supplementary. We'll solve this. Now, none of these are asking us to explain why we're picking what we're picking, so we don't need those if-then sentences. We just need to make sure we're setting them up right, either making them supplementary or equal to each other. Okay, the next one, let's move over to the right over here. These are the parallel lines, the ones with the arrows on them, so I'm going to draw those. Then I'm going to draw one of the other transversals, so I'm going to draw this one first, so we'll focus on these angles. Okay, so we have to figure out what we can write on this picture. Is there an angle in this spot right here? on the picture? Is there something here? What goes here? Z. Okay, is there anything here? This is the angle right here. Okay, so we actually can't put X there. Okay, looking down here, is there anything in this spot? Is there anything in this spot? So what kind of angles are Z and 85 together? Which ones are they? They are corresponding. They're in the same corner. Okay, we've got the upper right corner and the upper right corner. So are they equal or supplementary? Okay, there's no solving involved in that one. We just know that Z is equal to 85. Now let's redraw this so that we can focus on X. If we draw the parallel lines. And then X is on this transversal, so that's the one we're going to draw. So let me highlight this. We drew these two lines. And we also drew this line right here. So you'll see that it actually surrounds the angles that we're focusing on. So what can we put on this picture? What would go right here? If you laid this picture right on top of this one, that would be in the same spot where X is. Now we want to put this 45 on the picture. Where's that going to go? What kind of angles are these? Maybe you can see it better up here. Wouldn't it go right here? So either looking up here at the top one where I've drawn and highlighted these lines in black right here, or looking down here, what kind of angles are these? Okay, so are they equal or supplementary? There's only one set that aren't equal that are supplementary. Which ones are they? These are the only ones that aren't equal to each other. Okay, one way to remember it, S for supplementary, to show NCIS or CSI. It might be weird enough that you might remember it. Okay, the rest of them are equal to each other. Or if you just look at them, they're typically not going to look equal unless you have two right angles. So for instance, looking at these angles up here, one is acute and one is obtuse, so they're certainly not equal to each other. Okay. All right, this one. Instead of redrawing it outside, I'll try doing it this way, which is an option for you. We're just going to highlight the lines we're looking at. So I want you to darken this one in, the two parallel ones, and then this transversal right here. So we're looking only at the black lines. We want to figure out what angles we can talk about. Looking at the black lines, what angles are they surrounding? 4x is one of them. And 52 down here. What kind of angles are they? They are alternate interior, so they are equal. So we'll do that. 4x equals 52. Now Z right here, this angle isn't touching any of the parallel lines. You see that? Right here, this angle. So we're not able to use any of these properties because these only work when we're talking about parallel lines. Okay, but we do see that this angle is in a triangle. What do we know about the angles of a triangle? They always are going to add up to 180. We're going to use that a lot this year. Okay, so we could have these three angles added up. They would equal 180. So we've got 3z plus 2 plus 52. What do you think a lot of kids forget to do? Plus 90. That's very commonly forgotten. Okay, there's a 90-degree angle there. This would equal 180. So let's combine like terms. What's the number there next to 3z? Get z by itself. So there's going to be 3 homework problems similar to this. If it helps you to draw it like we did on this one, where you're just highlighting the parallel lines with the transversal, you can do that, or you can completely redraw it with the other lines removed so that you can focus on the information you need to look at. Okay. Key thing is figuring out what type of angle they are, and then you know if they're equal or supplementary. So we're going to start the homework together. So if you could go to your iBooks and get out a piece of paper. We're going to do 4 and 5 together, which are the first 2 problems. So number 4 and 5, they're both referring to that picture on the right-hand side, which I've also written up here on the smartboard. They want to know what the angle degree is, and then also the reason why. So we're going to do both of those things for number 4 and for number 5. Number 4 says, if angle 4 is 65 degrees, then angle 1 is what? If angle 4 is 65 degrees, angle 1 is what? Also 65 degrees. Okay, how come? How did you know that? You have to use one of the 5 sentences that we talked about on the second slide. Okay, either one of the if-then sentences, or what was the 5th one? Vertical angles congruent. So what's the reason here? They're vertical angles. Okay, so your reason is vertical angles congruent. Do not forget to write congruent. Don't tell me that they're vertical angles. Tell me that they're vertical angles and then you know they're congruent because of that. Okay, that's very commonly missed. So don't forget to tell me this. Okay, number 5. If I told you that angle 7 is 110, what is angle 2? So if we got 110 right here, what is angle 2? Also 110. How do you know that? One of the 5 sentences from your notes. It's going to start with if. If what? If parallel lines, this only works when you have parallel lines. We have to state that. If parallel lines, what? Really close. Thank you. You need that whole sentence to get full credit on the test. Okay, there's an upcoming section where we're actually going to talk about the converse of all of those if-then sentences, proving that lines are parallel. So on the test, you have to be writing the correct one. So in today's homework, they're all going to start with if parallel lines, unless you're talking about vertical angles, of course, then it's just going to be vertical angles congruent. Questions?